Hello and welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're looking at 10 teams that sold their success. 10. Borussia Dortmund. We start off with Borussia Dortmund. Now, Bayern Munich's dominance may make it hard to remember, but back in 2012, Dortmund had won the league twice in a row and had brought former trainee Marco Reus back to the club. A year later, they met Bayern in the Champions League final, but couldn't prevent the Bavarians from completing a historic treble. And to add insult to injury, Mario Götze swapped the Westfalenstadion for the Allianz that summer. Lewandowski followed a year later, then manager Jurgen Klopp, Gundogan, Hummels and Mkhitaryan went their separate ways in 2016. Thanks to sporting director Michael Zorc, the club have brought in some of the world's brightest young stars in Dembele, Guerrero and Weigl, but the breakup of their title-winning side handed Bayern the initiative just before they brought in Pep Guardiola. And with Thomas Tuchel complaining about the team's recent sales and RB Leipzig in the ascendancy, things could yet get worse. 9. Sevilla. Constantly threatening to become giants, Sevilla have turned transfer dealing into an art form. A year after winning the 2007 Copa del Rey, they had to sell Dani Alves and Seydou Keita, while a financial meltdown 6 years later saw Alvaro Negredo and Jesus Navas leave the club. Subsequently, they've signed and sold Bacca, Krychowiak, Kondogbia, Gamero, Rakitic and Iva Banega, making an incredible €142 million from those 6 deals alone. And despite the high turnover in the squad, the club remained competitive in Europe, winning 3 successive Europa League titles between 2013 and 2016. Boss Unai Emery also jumped ship, but with animated Argentinian Jorge Sampaoli now at the helm and yet another batch of bargain well-beaters, Sevilla somehow becoming better than ever. 8. Leeds United. Now languishing in the Championship with one of football's craziest owners, Leeds are no longer the major players they once were. As recently as 1992, the Peacocks were champions of England, and under David O'Leary, between 1998 and 2002, they were a fixture in the top 4. In 2001, Leeds reached the semi-finals of the Champions League, beating Maldini's Milan and Nedved's Lazio along the way. Mark Viduka, Rio Ferdinand, Jonathan Woodgate, Paul Robinson, Lee Bowyer and Alan Smith were all touted as future stars, but chairman Peter Risdell had borrowed huge sums of money to develop the club, and when the Whites missed out on European football the next year, Leeds couldn't repay their loans. Ferdinand joined Manchester United for £34 million, while Woodgate headed for Real Madrid. The side broke up, O'Leary lost his job, and Leeds were relegated. 7. Valencia. Another club shafted by a wayward owner, Valencia looks set to be on an express train to the lower leagues, but the side from the East Coast is genuinely Spanish footballing royalty. In 2000 and 2001, Los Che reached 2 Champions League finals in a row under Hector Cúper, losing to Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. The heart of the team was the magnificent Gaisca Mendieta, but Valencia were forced to sell him when Lazio offered an outrageous €48 million in 2001, having paid €32 million for Claudio Lopez a year earlier. Nonetheless, the club won La Liga in 2002 and 2004 with Rafa Benitez in charge, building a formidable defence around veteran centre-back Roberto Ayala. Unfortunately, Benitez's departure for Liverpool saw a period of instability, with 17 managerial appointments over the next 12 years. And talent like Paco Alcacer, Juan Mata, David Silva, David Villa, Jordi Alba and Pablo Aimar also jumped ship. 6. Lyon. 2008 was another year of success for Olympique Lyonnais. Lisgon won a domestic double, in the process picking up a 7th consecutive League One title in one of the most dominant periods in the history of Europe's top leagues. Their success was all the more remarkable after the sales of Florent Malouda, Thiago and Eric Abidal in 2007, but with Miralem Pjanic and Hugo Lloris waiting in the wings, there was no fear of decline. However, they couldn't continue to change managers and lose players, and Bordeaux took their French crown in 2009, with Marseille triumphing next. Pjanic, Lloris and Karim Benzema were next out the door, and Lyon's hope of another championship disappeared as PSG pumped oil money into the transfer market, and before long, Lyon's incredible title-winning team was just a distant memory. 5. Tottenham Hotspur. Once flaky and weak, Tottenham Hotspur hired Mauricio Pochettino from Southampton in 2014, and the Argentinian made his team younger and stronger, with an average age of 24 and an average height of 6'1". In 2015-16, Spurs never went more than 1 goal behind until the final day of the season after that horrific 5-1 defeat to Newcastle. They finished third on 70 points and looked ahead to the following campaign with 2 major concerns: the lack of a goalscorer to back up Harry Kane and the creativity in midfield should Eriksen get injured. Sadly for the Lily Whites, that summer they watched Gareth Bale and Luka Modric pick up their second Champions League trophy in 3 years, having left the club for a combined £118 million. If they had kept their 2 superstars, surely they'd have won their first title since 1961. For Lille, the 2010-11 League One race was a tight one. Lyon, PSG and reigning champions Marseille all fought with scrappy upstarts Lille, an exciting young side with an exciting young manager in Rudi Garcia. Eden Hazard and Gervinho were devastating on the wings, with Yohan Cabaye running the midfield and Adil Rami and Debuchy in defence. Lille ended up winning their first title in 57 years, outscoring every other team in the league and keeping the second best defensive record. Moussa Sow bagged 25 league goals, while Gervinho hit 15 and laid on 9 assists. But 2 years later, only Rio Mavuba remained of the glorious 2011 team. The Great Danes averaged a 5th place finish over the next 5 seasons and have not looked likely to challenge again. But Mavuba is signed up till 2019 when he'll be 35, so at least it isn't all bad. 3. Porto. Jose Mourinho's 2004 Porto team is legendary. The special one had flamed out at Benfica in his first managerial position, but 3 years later he was in his second campaign with the Dragons. In classic Mourinho style, Porto conceded just 19 goals in 34 league games, winning the title by 8 points, and went on to lift the Champions League trophy with a 3-0 win over Monaco. 13 of the 18 in Porto's Champions League squad were Portuguese, and with the Portuguese coach and the country's national team reaching a final of that year's European Championship, the future looked bright for the country. Interest in the team's players mounted, but the most damaging loss was Mourinho himself, who left for Chelsea, taking Paulo Ferreira and Carvalho with him. The next year, Porto exited the Champions League at the round of 16. 2. West Ham. Harry Redknapp is better known as a wheeling, dealing East End grifter than a visionary developer of young talent. But the Bulldog-faced boss is responsible for a glittering period in the history of West Ham. Redknapp joined the club in 1994, having played for the Irons in his youth and notably brought in Paolo Di Canio and less notably former Ballon d'Or runner-up Paulo Futre. But Harry also promoted from within, giving debuts to the likes of Rio Ferdinand, Michael Carrick, Jermaine Defoe, Joe Cole and Frank Lampard, and overseeing the development of Glenn Johnson. Despite this phenomenal crop, West Ham won exactly nothing, nada, and Redknapp left in 2001 with the club in 15th place. The sales of their gems bought them £52 million, not that much given that Redknapp claimed the Hammers 6 were better than Man United's class of Beckham, Scholes, Butt, Giggs and the Neville brothers. Debatable. 1. Ajax. In 1995, Ajax were on top of the world. Under the guidance of a 43-year-old Louis van Gaal, they had won 2 Eredivisie titles on the bounce, the second without losing a single game. They went on to win the Champions League too, and in fact lost just 1 game that season in the Dutch Cup after extra time to eventual winners Feyenoord. With 12 academy graduates in the squad, with stars like Seedorf, Davids, Van der Sar and Rijkaard, the stage looks set for a new era of dominance to match the club's 3 successive European Cups in the early 70s. But the Bosman ruling allowed Seedorf and Kluivert to leave for free, and within 2 years, 9 of the 16 players in that Champions League final winning squad had left Amsterdam. The Stars of 95 went on to win 4 more Champions Leagues and 28 more titles, while Ajax lost next year's Champions League final and haven't been back since.
So there we have it, but what do you guys at home think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you click here for loads more great content and down there to subscribe. And as always guys, we'll catch you later.